just been an activist around racism in sport locally for forever, really. Done some work nationally on this issue as well, and now part of a BAME forum that we've set up here in Leicester.
Good. Introduce yourself, young man.
Ivan Liebert, Leicester Nirvana, also the chair of the BAME Football Forum in Leicester.
The what? Sorry, football?
BAME Football Forum.
BAME?
Yeah.
You call it BAME? Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Ahmed Moravia, CFA, the Vice Chairman of BAME.
Cool. Football, racism, it's been going for many, many years, hasn't it? It dipped a little while, didn't it? Like the
Mid-90s,
late 80s, mid-90s, yeah, it dipped. But I remember when I used to go football, and the black players used to get so much grief. I mean, the 3 degrees for West Brom, they got bananas thrown at them.
Yeah.
They got racist abuse like there was no black in the Union Jack, send the bleep bleep back. You know, they used to get all kinds of abuse, monkey chants and everything. Then in the mid-80s, it sort of died down a bit. But now it's come back again, hasn't it?
It has, yeah. I think, you know what it is? I think the publicity around it died down. Because if you think about the grassroots football, where I was playing in the early 90s, and it was still there, it was rife. So I think in the professional game, it might take a dip, but in the grassroots football, it's still there. And it remained there consistently.
Well, in the old days, when I used to go football, Chelsea, they had a black player, I forgot his name now. Who was the first black player played for Chelsea? What was his name?
God.
His name was Paul Cannonville.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
When they found out when Chelsea,
yeah,
first ever black player, the National Front got wind of it, and the Chelsea supporters were getting him so much abuse, monkey chants, they were swearing at everything. It was the first black player to play for Chelsea, and when he scored a goal, the abuse that he got was still abuse. I mean, they said the N-word, said, well, he's a good player still. Good goal that was from the end. You know, I don't want to swear, but you know, it's just bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah.
That was, I'm talking about 36 years ago.
And it's still there, isn't it? I mean, football, it's a multicultural game all around the world. But I think in this country, it's predominantly seen as a middle-class white man's game.
I thought that was rugby.
No, I think this football is like a working man's game.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's strange that nothing's been dealt with so far. You know, we've got the lip service, we've got little campaigns happening, but nothing has really been done. And the only way you're going to make change is if you affect people's pockets. The big clubs, we need to hit them financially, hit them with the points. Like Sterling says, 9 points. And you know your club's getting reduced 9 points. Man City would have lost the title, for example.
But do you blame the club, though? I mean, it's the sport. It's not the club. It's not the club's fault.
It's not the clubs. I think people need to work in partnership. So, for example, the clubs have got thousands of cameras in those places. Players are even telling you that abuse came from that part of the stand, probably around this row. So those cameras can see these people. Even when you tell stewards, there's been documentaries, Panorama, etc., that have gone down, told stewards, and stewards have said, tell the police. The police have said, tell the stewards. So there's no one really wanting to take responsibility for it. But if the clubs knew that they would get docked points, they would do all they could to solve the problem. We're not saying it's their fault, but they would take more ownership on dealing with the problem.
And they should take responsibility, because at a grassroots level, the clubs take responsibility. So if a parent's abusive on the sideline, not behaving, etc., the fines line with the clubs. The clubs take responsibility. So if a parent's fined or a player's fined, all that responsibility of the finance and the penalty associated to it sits with the club. So why can't it sit with the club at a national level or Premier League level or wherever it is? They shouldn't be allowed to get away with it. And like Ivan said, you know, you take 9 points off Man City, they lose the league.
Yeah, absolutely.
You take a point off them, they lose the league.
Just about, yeah.
You know, so it's big business.
So is there a lot of racism at grassroots level then?
Definitely.
It's still there after all these years?
There's racism, Islamophobia, it's all there.
Racism has kind of gone dynamic now, hasn't it? It's got sort of bigotry now towards hating them. Like Mohamed Salah, for example, he got so much abuse. They got memes of a suicide bomb sort of strapped to him. This West Ham fan that gave him a lot of abuse, and there was Chelsea fans that gave him loads of abuse as well. So it's kind of dynamic now. It's sort of changed towards religious bigotry now, hasn't it?
It's becoming normal in society. Racism, bigotry, this hard right mantra that we're seeing. So it's going to happen in football, you know, where opportunities are being created or platforms are being given for this kind of text in society. Football's going to copy it. And that's exactly what happens. And you see that when there's national incidents, international incidents, Trump speeches or whatever they are, whoever is doing it, it manifests itself through sport, and there's rises in those periods at the weekend and so on. So there's a bigger issue than football, but like Ahmed said, football's that universal vehicle that everyone can be involved in. So we need to tackle it.
It's society's problem, but football as a governing body can do a hell of a lot. They've got the resources, they've got the organisation, and they should do something about it.
They've got the money.
They've got the money.
Yeah.
It's about
A big
educating
amount of
people.
money.
Yeah, they need to do something about it. Basically.
£5 billion TV contract just for the Premier League.
£5 billion.
£5 billion.
How would you spend all that?
Is that
billion
spread
pound.
between each team?
And it's split between the clubs.
The clubs.
It's the TV rights.
And that's the Premier League only, is it?
Premier League only.
So even if you get relegated, you get parachute
And
payments.
grassroots football is on its knees. Doesn't have a penny in it. The only thing that keeps grassroots football alive is volunteers.
Yeah.
And people that are passionate about making something happen for kids.
Like yourself. You
That's it.
And there's a dip in volunteers.
And there's a massive dip in it because, you're playing on rubbish pitches, you've got rubbish facilities, you're getting no support from anywhere
It's
related to
cold,
football.
Windy,
It's
wet.
cold, wet, windy, all of the above. Yeah, you turn on your box on a Saturday night, Sunday, watch the game and whatever, and you see this glitzy arena of football. It doesn't trickle down.
No, it doesn't.
It's completely different ends of the spectrum.
Well, there's no money in grassroots football, is it?
But there should be. Because where do players come from?
That's a very
good
good
point.
isn't it?
Good
They come from
Very,
grassroots
very good
football.
point.
Every
Yeah.
single player that's played football has played junior football at a grassroots level. But there's no money that trickles down that way.
So,
Very, very interesting point.
Yeah, it needs a revamp. But the other thing is, when it comes to racism, think about it, especially with the professionals, they are going to work every week and being abused, and their employer is not dealing with that abuse. Now, that couldn't happen at the BBC. That couldn't happen at the Independent, the Guardian, or Sky News, or whatever it is. If you were being consistently abused at work, something would have to happen. They
Yeah,
would
of
have to
course.
deal with the issue.
Yeah.
And they're not dealing with that in football because these are employees. So that's why football clubs need to take the onus, because their employees are being abused and they are not dealing with the issues.
I mean, Danny Rose said he can't wait to leave the game.
He did say that.
He said he can't wait. I can't
Which
wait
is
to
so
leave.
sad.
I know it is.
It is, yeah.
So sad for a person of that level of ability. And imagine how much he could give back to football from his experiences, from all his playing time, etc., etc. He just wants to walk away and forget it like a distant
Yeah, I know.
memory.
A lot
How
of players
sad
say
is
that.
that?
Even Sol Campbell was saying something like that as well when he retired in 2012. He said,
Like Kurt goes, it's a
"Thank
shame.
God."
Yeah.
They've got so much knowledge to give back to the game, and these are guys who've literally, born and bred with it, and they want to leave the game,
Yeah.
which is a shame. It's
Should we look at
really
let's look at some comments in a second. Grassroots kids get abused by grown men. It's ridiculous. It's
Yeah,
mad,
it's
ain't
true,
it?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not seeing it yet. My kid plays football for CFA. I'm not seeing that level of abuse yet. But I know when they get older, I think they're going to get a lot more.
As it gets more competitive,
Yes.
it gets more contentious on the side. That's when it starts to happen.
Yeah.
When it's nice and friendly, when it's just there's not real an edge to the
Nothing
game
to
or
play
who
for,
wins or
Yeah.
that kind of thing. It's quite all pleasant. It's pleasantries. You start to put an edge to the fixture, and you'll see it quickly turn.
Wow.
Quickly turn.
And it's such a shame because all the kids want to do is play football. That's
Yeah.
what they love.
That's
all-
wicked. Football's a brilliant game.
Exactly, and that's all they want to do. And it's such a shame that there's a minority of people that are spoiling it, literally
Yeah.
for everybody.
Another comment. Remember being at ER and Mars bars being thrown at Ian Wright? ER, is that
Yeah.
Emirates? Where's ER? What's ER?
Emirates,
Emery.
but it must have been Ian Wright. It would have been Highbury.
That's what I thought. Hybrid.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
ER. I don't know what
Highbury.
ER is, but Mars bars thrown at him. Flipping out crazy. I remember they used to queue up in the football stands. Used to queue up bags full of
Yeah,
bananas
yeah, I remember
just to throw at the players.
Yeah.
You see, when I used to watch matches there as a kid, I used to see bananas going onto the pitch.
Yeah.
As soon as the black player going, you hear monkey chants as well. Boos as soon as you touch the ball. I heard that recently as well. I think it was Ryan Sterling or someone. Touch the ball, I can hear boos straight away.
Yeah.
So it's not fizzled away. I mean, these guys are professional. They get paid X amount of money every week to provide a service, to provide a job, to do the job. And they're getting abused by their own fans and by away fans.
Yeah.
It's
How can we stamp it out?
I'm with, we've had these conversations, so we're all of a similar mindset. The authorities need to do more. If I just give you one example from 2014-15, a local case with one of our teams, parents doing monkey chants, opposition players
This is grassroots level.
doing monkey chants. This is here in Leicester, and the fine that the club got, having been proved guilty of it happening, was £120.
Is that it?
£120.
Yeah.
Now, forget the monetary value of whether it's worth the fine or not worth the fine, even if it's £20,000. My point that I made locally to the county FA and nationally to the national FA is the boys that had that experience, that's going to live with them forever. You can't put a pound against that, whether it was 50,000, 100,000 or whatever, and it affects people differently. And those boys that had to experience that, 13, was it 14 at the time, years of age they were, will live with having to face that level of racism like that locally. The parent that got charged as well, the county FA couldn't do nothing to the parent because they're not affiliated, so they can't take action. So we went through a police route to get charges against this person, and he was charged. And in court, they dropped the racism element, and what did they put in it? It was
Aggravated assault or something.
Something or abuse. And he pleaded guilty to it, and that was the end of it.
That was it.
Nothing else. Now we campaigned around.
Was there anything in the media about it?
Oh, there's massive.
Yeah,
there's huge amounts in the media.
Right. Okay.
We campaigned nationally about this and saying that's not good enough, and we're not going to accept that. Now the FA made a number of changes to their disciplinary process thereafter on the back of this case. They'll never admit that it was down to us and our lobbying behind the scenes, because they don't do that kind of thing. It would have been their ideas, it would have been their suggestions. We had this in the pipeline anyway. But we lobbied and lobbied and lobbied, and it wasn't only our club. We had support of other clubs locally, nationally. We had lawyers, we had barristers contact us that were lobbying on our behalf as well. So it kind of evolved into a big piece. And the main thing that came out of that was now there's called the independent advisory IAGs. So there's groups that have to exist within county FAs that are made up of representatives from the BAME community. But also now disciplinary cases that involve race are heard by independent personnel. They're not connected to the county FA. Because what used to happen is a club would get charged with a race claim. And they turn up at the county FA, and it's your mate trialing you. They're hearing the case, and they're saying, Riaz couldn't have done that. He's a good lad. I know his dad. He used to play football with me and whatever. It's all rubbish. You could go away, Riaz. It's all right. Crack on.
It's not what you knew.
So it was just every time a claim was made, it was always unfounded. It was always unfounded. So what we managed to get changed was now independent personnel come and listen to that from outside of your county. Yeah. So they don't have that affiliation. I don't know Riaz. I don't have nothing to do with you. I've never heard of him. So now when I'm dealing with you on the merits of the case rather than the relationship.
That makes sense.
It was a huge shift, but there's still massive amount to do.
You used to be a semi-professional footballer, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yourself, were you a
No, just normal football.
You were?
Yeah.
Did you two ever get racist abuse?
Yes. I got it every week.
I did.
And how did you deal with it? Did you go to the
got on with
referee
it.
and just...
I think with myself, it was like, if you wanted to play at that level, you got it from your own colleagues, you got it from your own manager and coach as well. I remember, I'm originally from up north, and I remember going to Cumbria to play a football match, and, the comments, this was late 80s, early 90s, and some of the comments you got was, I think the aliens have landed again, and all that. And I remember my manager going, don't worry about it, P, the P word and all that, and thinking, and that's the kind of thing. I remember when I first started, for about 3 months, I just stood on bench warmer, and I got the opportunity to come off the bench because the striker got injured. We lost the game, scored a couple of goals. The following week, got a hat-trick, and I remember my own manager saying to me, for a P, you're a damn good player. And I'm like, at that moment in time, I'm like thinking, hold on, I could take this seriously or join in the banter. So joined in the banter.
Yeah, you have to.
You have to. That's the only way forward. And I said, well, for a P, I'm a decent player, better than your white thingy. You know what I mean? That's the only way you can interact with these guys.
Wow.
It's such a shame. You have
to be thick-skinned. You have to be.
You have to be.
What about yourself?
I had a million experiences of being...
What's the one that really stuck in your head?
Up and down the country. I think the way I learned to deal with it, I was very emotional when I was playing, because I was a aggressive winner if that makes sense. Anybody that plays sport will probably understand
Let your football do
that
this
better than
yeah.
those that don't. But I was an aggressive winner, and I didn't like losing. And then you layer that with the abuse that I was getting as well. It was unbelievable on occasions. You learn to live with it.
Sometimes it drives you as well to do
It does
better,
drive
doesn't
you.
it?
It motivates you.
Yeah.
You know, I can pick out grounds that I used to dread going to. You know, Newport County in Wales. I used to dread going there because it was horrible.
Welsh people are
Tidville.
quite tolerant.
Merthyr
Tidville, they're
Tidville.
quite tolerant as well.
Horrible to play against. You know, there was 15 grounds I could have told you. I would go, oh my God. You knew what was coming. You just knew what was going to happen.
Wow.
But you just get on with it. The one thing that one of my managers used to say, just tell when everyone's giving you abuse on the side, just say thanks for coming and paying to watch because you just paid my wages today. And, that used to burn them. They're like, they've paid 10 quid to come in, and they're thinking, oh God, now he's getting some of that money. But you just have to deal with it.
What about yourself, young man?
Do you know what? I always remember a time where, well, like Kirk says, the places that they stick in your head. So I remember always going to Ibstock, Shepshed, Colville, even Blaby to some extent. And we knew, what teams we got this week? Told us one of them, here we go. We knew we was going to get some abuse. And this one particular time was when one of the parents was saying, go back to where you came from, and then called us monkeys and apes, etc. And someone on the pitch made the mistake of copying them as well.
Oh,
and that was it. They
Chopped
got
him.
it. They got it on the pitch. But it sticks with you for life, like Kurt was saying. Because now I could go to Colville, I could go to Ibstock, and I'll still have those same feelings that what's going to happen? Is it all right if I walk in this pub? Will I get abused by? Can I go for a pub lunch over there? Because we don't know how many people of colour are there. So yeah, it definitely sticks with you. Definitely sticks with you.
Okay, grassroots kids get abused by grown men. Okay, what's the message on? 1 minute. It's got a message, quite a long one, from Reece Simmons. Where is it? There's one way to deal with racism in football: lifetime bans for offenders, along with a short prison sentence and massive fines for clubs that refuse to address it. Something drastic had to happen with the likes of Tom Robinson, Farage on the loose, who don't help this problem. A good message from them too. Do you guys agree with that?
You know what? Yeah, I do. My thing is getting the police involved in terms of these adults abusing the children. Because if you're below 16 and you're getting this kind of abuse from the sidelines, for me, it's a police issue. Mm-hmm. And for the police to turn around and say, well, the parent has to make that claim and that charge when they're a minor, surely the police can get involved and take that up on behalf of a minor. Absolutely. So that's the definite conversation that we need to have with the police.
It's safeguarding.
Yeah, of course
it is. Totally.
These are experiences that can shift these young people from, being on a path of doing good things and being successful and being positive and etc. to complete opposite of that because of incidents that are out of their control. So somebody's got to be in control of it. Somebody's got to take control of it.
So do you think there should be a police patrol at each grassroots, like a policeman at each game, if it's going to be volatile?
I don't think that's...
But there's certain games of that are going to be contentious because they were contentious the season before. So when you've had a complaint, if two teams have had an incident and you've had a complaint, so the next season, go and watch that game. Someone from the county FA should go and watch that game.
Okay.
Yeah,
we've
there's
got
definite
a commercial
hotspots.
break coming up now, so we're going to have to cut it short then. Just for a few more minutes. We're back soon. Is it commercial break? Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome back to Ramadan special on EAVA FM 102.5 FM. I said it right this time. If anyone wants to ring in, you can ring on 0116 212 9324. You can text us on 07450 925 084. Okay, gentlemen, who is to blame for this racism on the terraces? I'm not terraces, sorry. On the pitches. It's terraces as well, yeah, of course it is.
You can call it terraces.
Yeah.
I mean, you can blame a number of things, can't you? Society.
What do you mean by society?
Well,
What, because of Brexit? Do you think it's a resurgence of
Media.
racism?
you can blame what's happening around the world. That's one.
Why did it die down in the 90s?
I don't think it really died down.
I don't think.
No, I didn't hear
don't
from
think
it.
it got that media attention because nowadays it's getting that attention, social media and everything.
I never heard it in the 90s.
No,
All the
it
games
was
I went
there.
to.
It was always there, but I think it was quite low key. And when it did happen, I don't think people reported it. You know, the proper channels weren't there.
I thought because of austerity, that's why racism came along.
it was
Because when
always there.
people got money, no one cares what colour you are. They don't say, as long as I'm okay, I'm happy. And the racism don't come into it. When they start losing money and start getting austerity, people start blaming immigrants, don't they? They start pointing their fingers, it's their fault, or it's their fault. That's when racism, nationalism sort of gets stronger and stronger. I've got my nationalism, but racism becomes more prevalent, doesn't it?
That's true.
Do you guys,
I think
what do you
things
reckon?
like Brexit do give it some kind of credence to exist. I mean, people that don't know what they were talking about when Brexit happened, they were telling South Asians to go back, you know, and
I got told to go back.
exactly
That's
nothing
what
to
down
do
the
with
street.
Brexit.
You know what I
You
mean?
know, so you know it does give people that vision to think, oh well, I can say this now because
Space.
our country doesn't believe it, so I can say it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and it definitely needs to be rooted out. It's in the schools. We were just talking earlier. You know, the teachers have got unconscious bias, the way they treat our children as well. So that goes
In what
down.
way? What do you mean?
Well, you know, if you look at some of the kind of the so-called naughty children, a lot of them in certain areas are people of colour, are black and Asians, and a lot of them are more blacks. So there was a report probably many moons ago now, probably or 10 years ago, which surveyed teachers as well, anonymously, and found that they were treating the black children different to the way they were treating other children.
Wow.
The way they were grading their marks because they knew them personally. Now he doesn't deserve that, and they're just putting it down.
Wow.
But they wasn't thinking
Unbelievable.
about it.
Unbelievable.
They just saw that person and thought, no, you know. But when they were marked independently, they were receiving higher marks. So you know, there's
That
a
is
lot.
shocking.
There's a lot
That
to
is
do with it.
shocking.
I blame the governing bodies because the sport fits within a framework, and the framework takes responsibility for that. There's policy, there's strategy, there's the rules, etc., etc. And if they're not working, something's wrong. And clearly on this issue, something's wrong.
So you blame the FA basically.
Absolutely. It's got to go right to the top, from FIFA to UEFA to the FA, right down to the local county FA. You know, they are in charge of football. You ask anybody who's in charge of football, they'll tell you it's the FA. So who's responsible?
Even right down to the grassroots level.
Grassroots. FA dictate to local county FAs how national games run. So, yeah, you know, you have opportunities locally to shape it differently because different areas are different. But the structure of football comes from the FA. The rules of football come from the FA. The laws are from the FA, etc., etc.
I think the only way you can combat racism is from grassroots level up.
Upwards, yeah.
Forget from top bottom. It's got to
Absolutely.
be bottom up.
Yeah.
Change young generations now. Their attitudes now. So when they go into the professional footballing, they have that attitude. Where there's no, you know, they have that racism. Like John Terry. Look at him. I mean,
Yeah.
professional footballer, proper racist. He called one of the players. What was his name? Anton of Black, whatever. You know what I mean?
Anton.
And what happened to him?
Yeah, he got a
He's
coaching
England
job.
captain.
Yeah, he got coached. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What does that tell you?
Yeah, it was
Legitimised
allowed.
it.
Yeah, they did exactly that, legitimised it. But Kirk's right, you know, if you've got a body that are meant to govern football, then they need to take responsibility, and they're not doing so. There's no money. There's money behind the campaign groups like Kick It Out, but other than that,
Once
there's
a
no
year they
Once
come
a
out,
year,
kick
kick
your
it out,
finger,
yes.
kick it out. You know what I mean?
There's no money to stop racism. You know, there's money now. If you look at now all the pressure they've had to throw money at women's football now, there's more and more and more. You know, which is a good thing. It needs to happen. But if you've got a problem and that needs solving over a good period of time, you have to put money into it. You know, sometimes nothing will happen. There's not going to be enough resource to be kind of generated without money, without finances behind it. If they want to tackle racism, put some finance behind it.
And that
You have to.
could mean whether you're doing your FA qualification, your refereeing, your workshops, it's got to be done at grassroots. They've got to invest that money at the grassroots level, big time. You know, before we end up losing a generation. Because at the end of the day, kids are only there to play football. That's what they love. They love football. And it's going to get to a stage where it's going to get so much, and parents can. I mean, we've had parents. I'm sure you've probably had a couple of kids that have fallen out, dropped out because they don't want their kids are there to play football, not to
receive abuse. Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We had 2 this year.
To be honest with you, I think England is we're fortunate in England because if you go just across the waters to Spain or Italy, it's much worse there. I mean,
they just had a recent case in Italy.
Yeah.
The player from, was it Juventus, who was getting racially abused, young kid. It was
I read about that as well.
terrible.
Yeah.
And nothing happened.
Nothing happened, no.
They didn't even get a fine, the opposing club.
And why is that? Is it because of their culture?
It's just acceptable.
That's part of their culture, isn't it?
It's one of the, the one thing that used to really frustrate me when people say, well, it's not that bad. Don't let it wind you up. It's not. It's all right. It might be for you because you ain't getting it. But ask me what I'm thinking about it. But that's the difference.
The thing is, you don't look Asian.
Well,
So I don't understand why you got it.
depends which eyes you look through. Though, it depends which eyes you look through.
That's nothing. Asian football players. There isn't any, is there? Do you think if there's more Asian football players, there'll be less racism?
No. We've seen that with the kind of insurgence of black players. Black players have kind of come through, Africans, Caribbeans, and they're still racism. So all it does is give them more power as individuals, shares the wealth out a bit more, gives them a bit of status. So if there's more Asian players, fair dues, but it's going to be the same thing. They're still going to get abuse. In fact, they may transfer some of that abuse that's aimed at the black players onto the Asian players. And now you might be at professional level. Oh, well, yeah, he's not too bad. He's black, but he's Asian, so let's get him. Because there's the new ones coming through. But there needs to be something done about it.
So why aren't there any Asian players in football, in Premier League, for example, or Championship? Is it because the FA are racist against Asians? Why is it? I mean, you've got black players, you've got Arab players, you've got African players, you've got people from different parts of the Caribbean play, but no British Asian
I think
players.
there was a research done, I think just about 6-7 months ago, I was reading up somewhere, out of competitive football, outside of it, they reckon Asians are the ones that play the most football. Like you. I won't mention the name, but down the road, you know what I mean, and all that sort of thing. But they reckon Asian players up and down the country, they're the most who that play 5-a-side or 7-a-side.
Yeah, we used to play football in the streets all the time when I was a kid. All the time, football, because that's all we can do.
I mean, gone's the taboo of the 80s and 90s. It's the religion, it's the diet and all that. That's all gone out of the window. You know what I mean? You can understand in the early days, because when our parents or forefathers came, their priority was to make sure there was stability in the family. Your son
working long hours.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So make sure you get a good education out of it.
They
so
didn't have the
football was second to nature.
Yeah.
It was just to play.
Well, we didn't have the
fun.
time to take our kids because it was always working.
Exactly.
Well, now we're a
it's
different
changed.
generation.
It's a different generation. We're born and bred in this country.
Yeah.
And a lot of things play that part why Asians aren't in football. Clubs play a big part in it.
And we've got some wicked talent out there. Brilliant Asian football. I mean, in the 80s, there was so much brilliant talent in the 80s. And when I used to go to a local youth club, and none of them were scouted. Yeah. They used to play for Nirvana and Highfield Rangers. None of them were scouted.
There was a lot of clubs. There was a lot of players. I just don't think the platform was there for them to bridge that from where they were within their local communities into that world of professional football. But that's different now. There are those opportunities. I just think the environment needs to adjust. The way football clubs work, when you turn up at the gate of whatever club, you become that club. That's how it is. And if you can't become that club and what that club's culture is, you will struggle. And for Asian players who haven't had an experience in that environment, they quickly start to drown because they don't understand the culture of the club or club culture. Yes. It's very different. The Afro-Caribbean players and the African communities that have been involved in professional football, they've had a longer run at this. The Asian community hasn't. And that time will come, but I still think it's quite a way off.
Oh, I'm not sure because there's so many Asian football teams out there. Look, you've got GNG, you've got that's predominantly Sikh.
Yeah.
We've got another Asian one. Nirvana's predominantly Asian.
Khalsa.
Khalsa,
There-
yeah.
there-
And
there
they've been
is.
in that football culture for many, many years.
There is, but I'm talking about progression. So if you're a scout from Leicester City and you want to go and find the best players at under 16s, and there's 12 leagues, 1 to 12, which league are you going to go to?
The top league.
Top one.
You go to Division 1.
Mm.
Now, if a Khalsa or a GNG or a Nirvana or CFA are in Division 6, it's not because their players are not good enough. It's because they're starting 20 years behind the clubs that are in
Yeah.
Division 1.
Got you.
Their
Yeah.
access to resource is very different. Their access to funding is very different. Their access to support to be able to get to Division 1 is very different. So you're a couple of divisions behind on a league chart, but you're 20 years behind in football terms. So there's a big gap that needs filling, and
Yeah.
that's the point that we're talking about how do you address these things.
So what do you guys do about racism in football? I mean, you guys are working for an organisation, aren't you? What's your organisation called again?
It's a forum.
It's a forum,
Yeah,
right?
So we've developed the BAME Football Forum. So any
What does BAME stand for?
black and minority ethnic. So,
Black and minority ethnics.
yeah. So we'll house clubs or members that are from that are black, Asian, and Eastern European, so to speak. So we thought we need to come together for ourselves. So no one has put us together. We have come together for ourselves independently because we know there's a need for our groups to support each other, to get better resources, to get better training, to deliver better outcomes for our own children, really. So that's the starting point of what the forum will do. Topically now, one of the things we will talk about is racism and equality in football, but that won't be the only thing we talk about. We want to know about, how do we get on these boards? How do we get on these decision-making boards? Who's making these changes? Who's developing the policies? So we want a representative on there. So we'll get someone onto that board. It might be training. How many coaches can we develop to a certain level? Can they get work experience? Can they get mentored? So we want to kind of look at football holistically and develop our communities that way.
Do you get funding for this?
No.
It's all voluntary.
We're doing it voluntary at the
voluntary.
moment.
Wow.
Hopefully one day, because it needs that push. I think we're the first in the country to
We
come
are.
together as we have done. We're not a campaign group. We're a group that's come together to progress outcomes for the communities.
And we want the authorities to work with us. That's the most important thing. Organisations.
So are you engaging with the authorities?
Yes.
With Kirk, I suppose.
No, I do this independently
Independent,
of any roles and whatever. This has been a passion for mine forever and ever.
I'm sure you can pull some strings though, because I mean.
Well,
you're
listen,
in a good position.
we've got to, as a community, as a football community, as a black community, as a sports community, however you want to label it, we've got to use every opportunity we can, because other people do. So why shouldn't we? And what Ivan was talking about is this forum's come together because we all suffer from similar things. So instead of dealing with in isolation, let's work collectively to see if we can address some of these issues. But the biggest point behind the forum is now we can hold those responsible for football to account. So before, historically, they've been able to pick us off one by one. So they'll go and work with CFA for 9 months and their flavour of the month, and everyone else is going, where are they gone? They're not working with us. But the FA will say, we're working with a great club, blah, blah, blah. Now what we're saying is, if you're not working with this forum, who are you working with? Because the forum is the collective of
That's good.
BAME football
That's a good thing then.
across Leicester and Leicestershire. And the simple membership criteria for this forum is your membership must be 50% plus one in terms of representation. And then you automatically, by default, can be a member. So we're not selective. And in fact, anybody that feels they can contribute to the forum, we don't even have clubs that are part of the forum from a football perspective, but they think they can offer good advice, they're welcome as well. All we want to do is change for the better. We want to change to improve our players' chances. We want to improve the chances of the kids so they're not experiencing what we had to experience. And however we think we can do that, we're going to try it.
Brilliant. Fantastic. We've only got a few more minutes left. So what do you guys want to advise out there? Some advice you can give to people out there that are suffering all this racist abuse on grassroots level, and what advice can you give to the people that are higher up?
I think for me, we need to share experiences.
Yes.
So when it happens, we need to be brave. We need to talk about it. We need to share our experiences, because a lot of the time people just want to know what's happening. And when they hear these stories, some people are shocked. I've been talking to many media journalists over the last month, and when I've been telling them about some of the stories that have been happening, they were like, wow, this is shocking. They don't hear these things. We're assuming everybody knows. Not everybody knows what we're going through. So we need to keep sharing those
More
messages.
media exposure, like
Yeah, definitely.
even on Facebook or social media, or even newspapers or.
I mean, what happens at the professional level? What happens to Raheem Sterling, the England game? That happens week in, week out at grassroots. You know,
That's
which is such,
disgusting.
yeah, exactly. Especially with 2019, and it's still happening, which is such a big shame.
I mean, if I saw my son getting abused by some bloke because of the colour of his skin, I don't know if I can control my anger. You know, you're going to go straight in there, aren't you? So,
But you see, in those situations, that will be reported.
yeah,
We'll go to the arenas that used to exist at the county FA, and you're to blame for
yeah,
it.
I'll get the blame for it.
The
People get fined.
the perpetrators in the first instance just walk away.
Exactly.
Say, see, that's why we done it, because they were aggressive. They were aggressive to us, so we had to try and defend ourselves with that. And you're like, what are you talking about?
The whole system's wrong.
Yeah.
The whole system.
Remember that
is
time
wrong.
with that CFA tournament on Ayleston Road, and we all started praying, and the guys were taking the mick out of us. Remember?
Yes, at the.
And I
door.
went up to him and said, "What are you laughing for?"
Yes.
And he goes, "Oh no!" I said, "You'll be," because they were laughing. I said, "Look, what are you laughing at the kids for?" You know. And they said, "No, we're not laughing. We're not laughing." And then one of the blokes said something racist. I'm sure one of the blokes said something
I
which
think
was
he did
derogatory.
something
And I
along
went
them
straight
lines.
up to
Yeah,
him.
he did. Yeah, because some kids praying, weren't they, on
Yeah.
the side, and some parents were praying and all that. And
Yeah,
I
that's
think he
right.
came
I was
down,
praying-
what are you doing up and down, and all
Yeah,
that,
something like that. They were saying, I don't know what they were saying. They were taking the mick basically. So I approached one of the guys. "What are you doing?" He goes, "No, nothing. Then one bloke goes, "No, we're not racist." Like, got really sort of aggressive with me. I said, "Listen, mate, you're taking the mick out of us. You are being racist." But then I think the referee came along. Was it you who came along?
I think it was myself. Yeah.
Yeah,
Came in.
kind of fizzled it all out, didn't you? All it takes is one person to fizzle it out. But the point is,
the
always
referee, the referees, it's a, you know, I'm glad you said referee in that instance, because when they attend these games, they are the neutral person. They are the
They're supposed to
person.
be.
They are the person in control.
Yeah.
They are the person that's there from the county FA representing football, and they are the person in charge, and they're neutral. In that
Allegedly.
case that I mentioned earlier on, 2014-15 season, the referee failed to report that incident.
Wow.
Failed to report the incident.
And why was that?
He didn't see it. He didn't see nothing.
He said he didn't.
And
see
in the
anything.
hearing, he said he forgot to
So he
report
did see it.
So what happened to the referee? What do you think would happen to that referee in that
He get
instance?
sacked straight away.
You'd think
Yeah,
something
he
would
yeah,
happen.
Yeah.
He was told off by his mentor.
And that's it.
That was it. Nothing formally
fine,
or
nothing.
officially happened to that referee.
Wow.
Now this is what you're dealing
That's
with.
shocking.
So you're getting people that are coming with a mindset that is already anti to a degree. And not all of them. There's some fantastic referees out there. There's some fantastic individuals out there who are very supportive. And you know what? We'll deal with it. We had one with our seniors this year. And our seniors play semi-professional football at a good level. And one of the opposing players called one of our players the P word. And it got a bit heated. To be fair to the opposition, they kicked that player off the pitch.
Good.
Their manager took him to the changing rooms and told him to clear off.
Good.
Respect.
Excellent.
And
Can you tell which team that was?
it's
Not-
from Ayrton. It doesn't matter. They're not from
Can
Leicester
we-
because
we can
we
pick
play
them
in
up.
we play in a regional league, so it's not local football.
Yeah.
And this is what I mean about there are some good people, because the manager of that team then came over to us and said, "Is it okay if I speak to that player to apologise on behalf of the club, because that's not me and I'm the manager and I feel responsible for that." So we asked the player. He was only 17. He said, "Yeah, I don't mind." So he went and spoke to the player and he said, "You know what? That player will never ever play football for me again. And I will make sure that everybody in my circle knows about what that player done. And I apologise. We're not denying it. We're not going to pretend it didn't happen. We know it happened. The other players have told me." And so there's good people.
There is.
You know, it's not everybody. Let's not tar everybody that
Yeah.
all these clubs are racist, because it's not like that.
Yeah.
But the ones that are and think they can get away with it, that's who we need to deal with.
See, I've not seen it. Like I said to you, when I go grassroots level, or go watch my son play football, I've not seen any racist abuse yet. And I've been to Colville, I've been to Fletton, I've been to wherever place, I don't know, another place out of town and stuff. So I'm not seeing it yet. And I've seen parents which shake their hands and stuff afterwards, say, that was a good game, that was a good game. But like you guys said, when it gets competitive, that's when the
edge comes.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's when the edge
And
comes.
the county FA, they know what the hotspots areas are, and they need to do that work in them areas.
Are they doing it?
No,
Not at all, nothing. No.
not at all, not at all. Not doing it at all.
There's no one thing that can fix it in
Yeah.
one go. There needs to be as many strings to this bow, and they need to all be worked on at the same time. We need faith in these organisations. We need faith in the county FA, in the national FA, and we don't have that faith at the moment. So that's why young people ain't going to engage with them, because there's no faith.
And their reporting procedure is not exactly best as well, is it? And managers, clubs, they've got no faith in it. No faith in how to report it. See, on the flip side of it, we don't even get feedback to see what happens. We'll get the rough idea, yeah, we've found X, Y, and Z. That's it. But shouldn't you be educating that person or that team? I mean, we had an incident a couple of years ago, I think it was about 2015. Our boys were second, first division, and they beat the top team 7-2. So you think
That's a
they'd
good
be
result.
happy.
Yeah.
They'd be happy. They came off the pitch crying because they got racist abuse, and they were saying stuff like, you Muslims should be playing football, you should be blowing up things, etc. and stuff like that. The P word was said and all that. And they were crying. They were literally crying, came off the pitch crying. I'm thinking, oh, the best day of your life, you just beat the top team. You know, you should be happy. But they came off the pitch crying. Because they're only 12, 13. And they're being tolerated to this sort of abuse.
Unbelievable.
And
It's disgusting.
on that side, that club got fined. They kicked the team out. Then I get phone calls 2 months later from the parents of these kids saying, oh, why have you done this, blah, 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 because I don't know what's happened. Do you know what I mean? So I rang up the county FA.
Oh, they didn't tell you. They just did it without telling you.
Without telling me. So it was the parents of this team. I had about 3-4 phone calls. The parents saying, oh, well, because of you guys, my kids can't play football. We got kicked out of the league, whatever. I said, look, I don't know anything about it. So I rang up county FA, so can you give me some feedback? What happened? Oh, yeah, we kicked the team out. We fined them, whatever, £250, and that was it. I said, so why am I getting parents of the opposition teams telling me their son can't play football? I agree, you should have fined them. You should have, as a part of their punishment, educate them what it's like to be Asian. When we're training on a Friday night or Thursday night, get them in a classroom for half an hour, then get them on a football pitch.
That's what you guys should be doing. Your part of this forum, you should get people from out of town, they're not out of town, the countryside, and get them to come in and speak to them.
Yeah, well,
and educate them.
we're doing work behind the scenes right now. We've got a questionnaire out there, survey that we're taking some details of. We're getting some information back from our own clubs, and then a strategy will be written up. And we're hoping to go live with it for the start of the new season, in and around there, with a big kind of launch. I'm sure you'll be invited, and we're gonna say, here, this is what we've found from our process over the last 8 months and what we've known historically for a long time. This is our strategy to deal with it. We're not here to beat you over the head with it, but come and work with us.
Yeah.
There's no excuse for you now not to come and work with us.
Yes, we've got about 50 seconds left. That's what the producer's saying to me. Okay. Now let's get back to this then. What's the difference between these two bananas?
Go on, you're going to have
What's
to
the
tell
difference?
us. You're going to have
Yeah.
to tell us.
Nothing?
This one was thrown at John Barnes 35 years ago, and this one was thrown at Raheem Sterling a few months ago. There's no difference. Nothing's changed.
Yeah.
They're the same.
Correct.
Do you know what I mean? That's what I was saying. Okay, so thank you guys for coming in. Hope you guys can do more and more in the community, because we need brothers like you to get out there, stamp it out as much as possible. Forget kick it out and all these. I don't want to cuss them. I don't want to, But I've seen. I go to football every Saturday. Well, every other Saturday. All I see, kick it out. Once a year, they'll come and say, "Kick it, racism, man." That's it. That's what I see. You guys keep doing what you're doing, mashallah. Allah protect you and reward you. Thank you for listening, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.